apologies. It's been a crazy month. It's been a crazy season. I'm gonna be 100. Sometimes I'm just trying to keep my head above water. So thank you for your grace. I've been doing Word of the Day Wednesdays for 3 years now and have not taken any breaks. It's like every Wednesday around this time. I think I played with the times. I started off doing them at 6, and now I'm doing them at 5. But this time I needed a break. So hopefully we are getting back on track. So this is going to be a Word of the Day Wednesdays catch up because I have 3 blogs to catch up on with you for you guys. So for those who don't know, I am author Nicole D. Miller, and this is my debut novel, When Love Wins. When Love Wins is an urban Christian fiction story. It's the story of 2 young female cousins with a rift in their relationship. When Natalie, the faith-based social justice advocate writer, loses her mother, she moves in with her cousin Ashley, the socialite fashionista, for grief recovery support. But instead of a warm welcome, she receives an icy cold one. Is it because Ashley's ex is feeling Natalie and she's not feeling that? Or is there more to the story? Of course, there is. This book deals with depression, anxiety, cutting. It deals with trauma, loss of parents, parent absenteeism. But it also has a fun aspect to it and very nostalgic, a throwback to the 90s, but relevant to this generation. So if you would like to learn more, you can go to whenlovewins.love. All right, guys, let's get started. So, as you guys know, I piggyback off of my latest blogs, and since I've missed 3 blogs, we're gonna piggyback on the last 3. The first one that I wanted to talk about is called "The Promises of Abraham." So this one is really talking about in the Bible how Abraham demonstrates just great faith, supernatural faith, honestly, over a long period of time. So God gives him a promise that him and his barren wife Sarah will one day have a child, one day have a son specifically. And what really like ministers to me through this passage is that not only is it a very long time before this promise passes, so it's 25 years before the promise passes, but it's like God keeps saying the word and over the course of them waiting. But what I realized in digging into it further is that more and more, he gives more and more information. Like as they wait and they go further along into the journey, he gives more and more information. And I break this down in the blog. So initially he's just like, yeah, you're gonna have an heir, right? But then another time he comes back and he's like, your descendants are gonna own this land. And another time he comes back and Abraham is like, how do I know this is going to happen at this point? Because God keeps promising it, but it's like you ain't delivering. And he's like, this is the sign. So he makes a covenant with him. And then he tells him to circumcise himself. And part of that ministers to me because it's like there's still obedience. We still have to carry out the things that God put on our hearts for the promise to manifest. So, anyways, if you feel like you could relate to where you're standing on God's promises for your life, maybe you've been waiting a long time, maybe the words and confirmations keep coming to you and you're frustrated, like, why is this not happening? I highly encourage you to tap into that particular blog post and look at those scriptures as a source of encouragement, especially to have supernatural faith. I think that the faith that Abraham demonstrated was not in and of himself. Like that was a gift from God. And he didn't even have the Holy Spirit within him. So imagine like how much more faith we're capable of having. So that was that blog. The next blog that I wrote is called Leading by Example. So this blog was inspired by my new role as a parent. So for all of you guys who are parents out there, you already know. Thank God I'm co-parenting, okay, my goddaughter. But there's so many life lessons, in parenting, especially with our relationship with the Creator and the Father. It's like, wow, Lord, I am to her what you are to me. And I actually did get those revelations being a pet parent, which is funny to say, but BJ was my first child. And so I definitely got some revelations there. But in this blog, I talk about leading by example because the things that we're teaching and sharing our children, it's like we're called to uphold those things. And that's one of my biggest things with demonstrating with my goddaughter in our home is look, I'm not asking you to do anything I'm not doing. And I actually was like that even as a young leader in corporate. I had employees under me, older people who were actually older than me, and I was called to lead them. And I was sharing with them, like, I'm working just as hard as I'm asking you guys to work. So I always kind of had that engraved in me. But in this season, it is definitely on another level and being reiterated to me. So my encouragement in this blog post is just that when we are called to being a leader, the standard is higher. We can't always do what everybody else is doing. We can't always get away with what everyone else is getting away with. And when I was younger, I hated that because I felt the weight of the calling on my life. I looked at my peers, I looked at other people's circumstances, and I wondered, like, why is this being put on me? Funny enough, I had a similar conversation with my goddaughter last night where I heard her saying the exact same words. And it's funny to give her the answer that I know was given to me, right? When I felt the same way. And it's only now that I'm seeing the bigger picture as to the why. And I think that's where the faith comes in because you're being obedient, you're being faithful, and you don't have the full picture. You don't fully know why. But at some point, I do believe God wants us to know why. And that has been something that I've written about and will be publishing in the future more about my encouragement for you to ask God why. But the leading by example was really to those who are called to lead and understanding that leadership is sacrifice, but that, of course, it is rewarding. And then my last blog post, which is the one I just released this week, is called A New Way. And it's interesting in this blog post, I talk a lot about movies. And God does use movies to minister to me and speak to me. But I talk about like these sci fi teeny bopper movies I've enjoyed. You guys have probably heard me talk about Hunger Games. That's one of my favorite movies. And in this particular blog post, I shout out Divergent, which is funny because I actually just binged all of those this weekend. And I mentioned like The Giver, and I mentioned The Maze Runner, and then The Matrix, which is like the initial initial sci-fi biggie. And the thing about all of those movies and what they all have in common that I appreciate is that you pull back the layers. So when the movie starts out, it's like it's one layer, and the characters are believing one thing about their whole world. They're usually indoctrinated or something, or these facts or information is ingrained in them, and they just take it, as what it is, probably because it was given to them through their youth and through elders who they trusted, like their parents. And all of this actually was inspired through a movie I just watched called The Uglies. So if you guys haven't checked it out, check it out. It's pretty good on Netflix. So, anyways, I'm sharing all of this to say I understand, I relate to it in my own faith journey and life journey. Because in these movies, you see the world one way, but then you have this awakening to maybe truth or another level of understanding, and your eyes are kind of opened, right? And I relate it to how in The Matrix, Neo, the protagonist, was given the opportunity to take either the red pill or the blue pill. And I talk about like how the red pill in the movie represents truth. And for me, I could see like when I was 19, that's what happened for me. I already had a relationship with God, but when I was 19, it went to a whole nother level. And it was something that I could not turn my back on. It was something that I couldn't ignore. It was a life changing experience. And so I find myself in a very similar season where I know I'm at another life defining moment. Like I'm about to transition into another life defining moment. And so, what I share with my blog readers is just for you to recognize those moments, and to understand like they are taking you further into your destiny, identity, and calling. So, if you want encouragement in that regard, check out A New Way at NicoleDMiller.com. All right, so I do have some events that are coming up for you guys. On October 3rd, which is my mother's birthday, so this is going to be fun. On October 3rd, I will be hosting the Sister Circle, and the topic is navigating singleness at the holidays. So I think this is going to be a really great time of intimate dialogue. I'm excited because I know that Stacy Kirk, who is the founder, I know that she's been doing this for a while, and it's very similar to Girl Talk, a different format and structure, but the same like vibe and values. And I haven't had a chance to attend any of them yet. So to be a moderator, I'm like, oh, this is going to be exciting. And it's totally like my vibe and, female empowerment, intimacy dialogue. That's what Girl Talk is. So that's on October 3rd. So I just sent out my weekly newsletter. So tap into that at NicoleDMiller.com and sign up if you haven't already. Or look on any of my social media pages. Tonight is Dr. Shamara Hutchins' Girls Night virtual event at 10. I think it's too late to like sign up for that. But I do want to shout her out because she is our upcoming debut author. As you can see in the background, I have my Indie Miller Publishing. What is this thing called again? I can't even remember. Sign. It's not a sign. Oh, retractor. Banner. A retractive banner. Something like that. Anyways, my banner, and I have Dr. Shamara's book listed along with fellow author Alicia Ellis. And so we're so excited to welcome Dr. Shamara to our tribe of published authors at Indie Miller Publishing. So tap into all of her events. Her memoir is beautiful, very inspiring and encouraging, and it's called The Horology of a Woman. And then the next events that I wanted to just kind of put you guys on notice about is Futureland. So if you follow me for any time period in the last 3 years, you know I'm a huge advocate of Futureland because they are promoting Black and brown businesses and small businesses in the area. So I'm all about that, And this time around, I'm actually going to be a moderator, and I'm going to be one of the folks out there doing interviews. And so it's really cool to be in that space. Previously, I've been like kind of part of freelance media, like I've done some articles on them, but have never actually participated in any of the sessions. So this is dope, especially because like I have been a recipient of the workshop. So I've been in the audience. And that was very similar, and I probably didn't get to elaborate on this, but I got to do that with Power Brand for Sharita and Carthan. And that was dope because literally 2 years prior, I was in the audience. So to go from the audience to the stage is just another God moment. So I definitely want to glorify him for all of these opportunities of rewarding the hard work and the grind. So, of course, you guys, there's a lot of behind the scenes happening right now. And so, when it's time, I will be sharing some of those amazing experiences that I'm having behind the scenes. But for now, be on the lookout for these events. Support your girl, NicoleDMiller.com. Buy a book at When Love Wins That Love. Buy a book, you guys. I'm still selling these. And I will see you next week for Word of the Day Wednesdays.